Hello, and welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about fostering innovation in the new workplace in our Leading in a Crisis virtual summit with today's guest expert, Christopher Salem. Hello, Christopher.
Hey, Anissa, how you doing? It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. We're excited about the topic today, and we're going to jump right on into it. You can see my screen okay, right?
I can. Yep.
Okay, good. All right, we're ready to roll. So the summit is Leading in a Crisis, and it is our virtual summit specifically focused on actionable business and HR strategies for navigating crisis and change. And my company, TurnKey Coaching and Development Solutions, is proud to be a sponsor. In fact, humbled to have been able to pull incredible speakers together like you, Christopher. And I want to say thank you to our sponsors very quickly before we dive into the meat of innovation. I want to say thank you to David Whitmarsh. Sincerely appreciate all of his amazing support, helping us spread the word and share with our peers and organizations about the summit. David and his team of super talented multi-channel marketing experts are available for any of your marketing, online marketing, content marketing, etc. needs. So do reach out to David and his team if they may be of service. I also want to say thank you to Insperity. Insperity is HR that makes a difference. So when I reached out to Insperity and said, I think we're going to do a summit. I'm not really the kind of gal that can just sit back and watch this calamity. I need to do something. What if we could pull together some experts on how to navigate this crisis, how to get our minds right, how to think about our business, how to pivot, how to bring innovation to our teams? And they said, we love it. How can we help? And then I said, well, what about giving something away for free? Maybe. And the team over there, our business performance advisor, said, how about a free HR financial analysis report and debrief? And honestly, I thought it was going to be, some little 3-page report that you're supposed to do something with, like a checklist or something. And it wasn't. This is a 3 to 10 hour service where you answer a few questions, and everyone knows that HR budgets right now have gone out the window. What you had planned for is now postponed, potentially indefinitely. Even the workforce that you had planned for, we don't even know for sure. Is it going to be the same workforce, a different workforce? Are we going to even sell the same products? Are we going to do something completely different? So if your budget has changed and you would benefit from reaching out to Insperity, they know that not everyone is a good fit for what they do. And when I asked them, well, what if people aren't a good fit for your service? Are you still offering this to anyone? And they said, yes, it's really about giving back and being of service. So if that would support you in aligning your HR strategy with best practices, find out more at turnkeycoachingsolutions.net/HR report. Now, I want to say thank you also to our internal team of management consultants and strategic planners who have taken our typical process around strategy and crisis management and put it into a data-driven process to help our clients. And they put together a package that will facilitate not only assessing where you are, but where you want to go, implementing, or what we'll just call it laying out an action plan that's actionable, that allows folks to focus on the right things in the right order at the right time, and then also facilitating your management team, your executive team's alignment around it. While the program is not free, it is the next best thing. It is name your own price. We've never done that in the history of our company, but it is our way of giving back as well. So if you're looking at revamping your strategy, give me a call. I'd love to have the opportunity to share more. 281-469-4244. Now, a little bit about me. I'm the founder of TurnKey Coaching and Development Solutions. We have coaches and trainers in every major metropolitan area in the U.S. and in key hubs globally. Founded the company in 2004. And I'll tell you, in all this time, what I am most proud of is this summit where topics such as managing a newly remote workforce, how to give them back into the office now that they've been working from home, how to manage the chaos, how to manage complexity. We just had another one today called crisis management, which blew my mind. It was amazing. We're adding new speakers all the time. It's every Wednesday and Thursday through the end of May, and now we'll have a few extra into June. So let me know what talks you'd like to see and see if I can make that happen. So fostering innovation in the new workplace, leading in a crisis summit featuring Christopher Salem. So Christopher he's known as an executive coach, a corporate trainer. He's a keynote speaker. He's an award-winning author. In fact, two of his books, he authored Master Your Inner Critic, Resolve the Root Cause, and Create Prosperity. He also is the co-author of Mastering the Art of Success, which is co-authored with the Chicken Soup for the Soul famous author, Jack Canfield's personal development guru. So Christopher's content has been shared on so many different services and sites, including leading podcasts such as Entrepreneurs on Fire and media outlets such as ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC. He works with corporate clients to support them in creating authentic, transparent leadership, improving their corporate culture, improving employee engagement, and instituting a peak performance mindset. So, Christopher, what did I miss? Tell us about you and what we're going to learn today.
Oh, great. No, you were spot on. Well, today we're going to be talking about fostering innovation in the workplace. And so let me bring this up. Do you want me to bring this up on my end?
Yeah. Let's get started.
Okay, let me get this rolling here so I can share the screen. Let me see where I can do that, and we'll get that done here.
Perfect.
Can you see everything here? Is everything
Yes.
fine? Okay, so let's go to here, play from start, and there we go. So everything's showing okay on the screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, beautiful. Well, we can begin. So yeah, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about fostering innovation in the new workplace. And so, during this time of this pandemic, there's been a lot of things that have been happening in this short period of time. And this is a period where, there's going to be some changes here, some permanent for certain industries, some somewhere in between, some might be the same, but nonetheless that there is going to be changes. And this is why it's imperative as we move forward out of post-corona and also into this new decade, that we really have to have a firm understanding of how we can understand what the new workplace is going to look like and how we can continue to foster innovation, because innovation is going to be the difference maker in organizations in different industries going forward. It's not that we can just stand idle and just keep doing the same things over and over. We're going to have to do things that are innovative, that are different, and that adapt to these changes that are taking place. So some of the key takeaways that we're going to be talking about are the importance of core values. Now, this is something that, some of you might understand, okay, we know we have core values at our organization, but it's one thing to just say what the core values are. It's another to say, are we actually doing it? And is there an alignment in some way with our people where there's a common ground with those values? And a lot of times, a lot of organizations may not take that into account. They may not take that into account when they're onboarding and hiring people. And these things are what are going to be very critical in determining, keeping certain skilled people and key employees that are going to play an important part in fostering that innovation. So we're going to talk about that and how it's making some changes in terms of building or revamping your workplace culture. We're going to discuss 5 effective ways to foster innovation in your workplace. And we're going to talk about the importance of creating an interdependent work environment. So interdependent, is the opposite of codependent. So we'll kind of revisit, like, if, give you a little background, what codependent is and what interdependent is, and how that plays an important role in not only fostering innovation, but sustaining it, which is even more important. And then the concept of leading by example, which will obviously also continue to sustain innovation in the new workplace. So let's take a look at what are core values. Well, as you can see there from the definition, these are values that form the foundation for everything that happens in the new workplace. So think about, what does values mean to you? So not only for your company right now, I want you to think about, what are your core values? And really, don't adopt something that you've been led to believe that it should be, but really define what are your core values and ask yourself, are my core values in alignment in some way, because it's never going to be perfect, with my organization? And then, is those values in your organization also aligned with you in some way? Do they correlate to the audience or industries that you serve on some level? Because this is going to be very important in terms of how we connect and engage and continue the process of innovation to develop new products and services, especially now in the age of AI and automation, that we're putting that human capital and these different AI and automation processes to be more efficient, more productive, and produce better quality moving forward. So it's important that we assess what these core values are, and it has to also be done at an individual level. Maybe taking an assessment of people's values across the different departments in your organization, just getting a little pulse on that. So let's take a look at what are some of the common core values in an organization. Now, again, this doesn't mean that this is going to be for you, but this is going to be just in general what you would find in most organizations. Now, many organizations will have something that they come from integrity. Integrity means that you're doing the right thing when no one's looking. Now, you got to really ask yourself, are we really doing that? Are we really doing the right thing when no one's looking? So we got to be honest with ourselves. We have to be transparent. Now, you notice that transparent is not listed here because it's not generally considered one of the 4 common core values, but yet integrity and transparency go hand in hand. So it's very important that we as leaders, really get honest with ourselves in terms of our core values, and then also for the organization. Do we have an environment in place, a culture established that really resonates with what integrity really is? And how does that carry out into not only the workplace, but also out to the customers and the communities that we do business in? And then, of course, being ethical. Again, that kind of go hand in hand. That we are following, certain laws and regulations, and again, doing the right thing. Now, another thing that's very common is also respect. But we got to really ask ourselves: are we really respecting our employees, our skilled workers? Because these are going to be the people that really are going to be the driving force behind innovation as we move forward. So respect might mean different things to different people. So again, we have to find some common ground, what respect is and what does that mean for the organization. So when it comes to respect, how do we go about finding out if people feel that they're respected in the workplace? Well, it's all about listening, of course, but we have to relate to people. People have to feel like they've been related to, and we have to listen to understand versus respond. So I'll make that clear. See, listening to respond is much different than listening to understand, because when you're listening to respond, there is not that relatability, or it's on a very small level. It's not at a level that it should be. But why this is important is that when people feel related to and they feel like they've been understood, they feel respected, and vice versa, they're going to give that respect back. Now, I'm not saying that's guaranteed, but more or less that's out of human nature. That's what people do. And out of respect and understanding comes where we could create an environment and a culture for innovation. So this is why this is so important to establish core values, but not only establish them, but actually, being the example of them, not only from the leaders of the different business units from the top down, but across every employee in the organization. Then, of course, there's innovation. So innovation, again, that can mean different things to different people. But again, innovation, again, is doing things that continue to, strive to do better in what you provide in terms of your products and services. Coming up with new ideas and products that will help people in industries and companies to solve problems. Not that you're going to solve their problem in itself, but you're going to play a part through that innovation to help them solve their problems and then create solutions. And what's important to make this stick is the accountability factor. So again, when you have an environment where you're coming for core values with respect and understanding and of integrity, and there's innovation, people are going to be more, they're going to understand their roles, they're going to understand their responsibilities, and yet they're going to be accountable to come together to do that at a bigger level. So this is why when you see these four common core values, again, it does not mean that your organization has to have these four, but on some level you can look at these and how does this truthfully relate to our organization and the people that we have working in it, whether internally or remotely, excuse me.
You know, one thing I want to
go ahead. Do you have a question?
Just, yeah, real quickly on the innovation piece, we have a lot of clients who want to drive innovation, especially right now, but innovation hasn't been a core value. So I suspect you're going to get into this in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Right. There's a disconnect there.
Well, there is.
Right.
Because the plain and simple is they may not be around. That's the thing. I mean, you're seeing certain companies in certain industries just disappearing because they have not been innovative.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, you're going to have to change. If you don't change, then you're going to be left behind or you're not going to be in business. So this is why this is so important, but you have to build that foundation, and the core values is where it starts. So this is an example of a company that everybody for the most part is familiar with, Salesforce, right? They provide customer relation revenue programs, CRMs, they call them. And these are just the core values of Salesforce. So again, you look at that first one, trust. So trust a lot of times can play into what we talked about earlier with integrity and being ethical. So what they're saying is nothing is more important than a trusted relationship with everyone in our ohana. So ohana is a Hawaiian word for, in your circle of friends or family. That's kind of a term they use in Hawaii. So again, it's like what they're stating is that at Salesforce, it's about people first. Building trusting relationships internally and then externally with our alliance partners and our customers, that we treat everyone like if they were family or our, friends. So the thing is again, we have to ask ourselves if that is truly the case, are we doing that? And what can we do better to make sure that we are improving in those areas so that actually aligns correctly with what we're showing as our core value? Customer success. Again, it's stating that this is a two-way street, and this is why I use this example. See, the reality is there is nothing out there that's going to solve someone's problem. Now, I know sometimes certain companies, you might even ask a surgeon, they might say, well, I do. I could take someone's tumor out and I've solved their problem. Well, in reality, that might be the case initially, but it's a two-way street. Your customer has to do their part. Your clients have to do their part. So you can see if you're going to build a sustainable success platform with your customers long-term, it's got to be a two-way street. So, you both got to be striving for mutual success, each of you doing your part. That means your customers doing their part with your products and services. And this is where innovation obviously plays an important role, which we'll talk about later. Then innovation. Now, we saw that from the last slide is one of the core values. And again, they're saying that this is part of their DNA. Goes really deep, that, Salesforce is all about innovation, and that they encourage and they want to empower trailblazers to innovate. So trailblazers are people that are not just doing, conforming and doing, what they think they should be doing. They're going out there finding different ways to be more efficient, more productive, and that this environment, this culture at Salesforce is encouraging those people to do that. They're providing resources and technology and different things that will help these people that play a vital role in their growth to become more innovative. And of course, equality. See, we live in a diverse world. It's inclusion, right? So with diversity and inclusion, we have to really respect people, like we talked about earlier. And people come from all different backgrounds and they look at things in a different way. So we have to respect people. We have to really leverage each other's strengths to offset our weaknesses so that we can come together to create a workplace that can thrive and innovate on all levels. So let's give it an example of what we call a trusted advisor. But before I mention this example, what is a trusted advisor? See, a trusted advisor is not a title. It's an action, and it can be aligned with an organization, corporation, a company, any entity, or even an individual person. It's not what you do in your business and industry. It's why you do what you do. See, core values are kind of behind the scenes. This is what people are subconsciously connecting with, whether if they know it consciously or not. So if there are similar core values with your customers, they're more or less are connecting in some ways or many ways on those core values. See, a trusted advisor looks at what they do before what they do, why they do what they do. It's those core values that drives them to, connect and engage their industry, to connect and engage their clients. And they understand that core values, it starts internally in the workplace, and that you can't be truly innovative where it becomes sustainable without those core values. So this is an example I wanted to use. So some of you might be familiar with this gentleman. I know especially a lot of women probably would be, because they buy shoes from this company online, Zappos. So, Zappos is an online shoe retailer. They do sell other things as well, based out of Las Vegas, Nevada. And this company, since day one, has had tremendous success, meaning that they already had venture capital behind them. Matter of fact, Tony was one of the venture capitalists that was involved in investing in Zappos. He was not even the CEO. But because Tony really had came from, strong core values, something that that was emphasized when you got to know him, and a lot of his content, that the company recognized that instead of him being the lead investor in the company, that he would be better being the CEO of the organization based upon those core values. And since day one, like I said, this company has had tremendous success. They have one of the best customer service ratings that you can ever find in a company. And again, it's about people and about innovation and about those core values that we talked about. And this is something that they just don't say what this is or have it listed in when you walk into the company and you see it on the wall behind the receptionist or the admin. These are things that you see by example. You can feel it. You can hear it. And again, you don't have to hear integrity. You don't have to hear innovation. You don't have to hear trust and honesty and be ethical and diverse and all those things. These are things that you could just automatically, when you are doing business with them or interacting with them, if you're a customer, that you could already feel that. Mm-hmm. And this is what's so important, that a lot of times if companies don't put an emphasis into this area, like looking at it as your foundation, if you're going to build a beautiful home, that home will not sustain itself if it doesn't have a rock solid foundation. Those core values are going to be your foundation. They're going to build a strong workplace, whether if it's internally and people working remotely or people who are working remotely, does not matter. It's still going to play an important role no matter where people are, to connect and engage and to continue to innovate. So let's take a look at fostering innovation. Again, this is why, sustainability for the new workplace, why this is so important. So encouragement is the secret sauce in fostering innovation in the new workplace. So encouragement. So one of the things that, sometimes we've been led to believe is that, people can motivate us. Now, the reality is that might appear to be the case short term, but in reality, that is not the case. We can only internally motivate ourselves. And that is often a hard thing to do, especially when it comes to innovation. So this is why we have to establish a workplace where we inspire people through example. And we're going to talk about that later, being the example. And this encourages people to come out of their own comfort zones because they're observing others doing the same, whether if it's in person or remotely. Okay, now with the technology that we have, we can, you can be on Zoom all day long doing business and having group meetings and whatever. But nonetheless, this is going to be a way that encouragement is by example. It's not what has been said and told to somebody, but it's through example. And it again goes back to that foundation of those core values and principles that we talked about earlier. So let's take a look at some 5 effective ways to foster innovation in the workplace. Again, whether if this is remote, which you're going to see a lot of this now, people working in different work spaces, they might be working out of their homes, a lot of cases now. So companies are going to have to be creative now in, creating an environment that extends outside of the 4 walls. So what are they going to have to do? Well, they got to create an environment from those core values that it encourages opportunity. And I'll say that again, encourages opportunity. Because what's going to drive somebody is the concept that there is an opportunity that they can accomplish. And if it's, somebody doing the same old every day, that's going to stifle innovation. They're just going to get into the kind of a fixed mindset of just doing the same thing over and over again like they've done and just really not getting ahead. But if we're going to be, we're going to foster innovation, we got to create an environment that really fosters those opportunities and that allows people to leverage their strengths, not their weaknesses, to accomplish those opportunities. And then that we're working together in a way that we can accomplish these opportunities at certain time periods, as we agree upon. We also have to come up with resources, and these resources are always changing. I mean, technology changes like every quarter. I mean, for all I know, it seems like every week now something's changing. But nonetheless, we got to keep on top of that. We need to be proactive in making sure that we are equipping our departments, our sales staffs, all the different leads and people that work for the different departments with resources that will help them to foster this innovation, to then capitalize on those opportunities. There has to be flexibility. So what's flexibility? Well, hey, we all have families. We all have personal lives. And, there's only so many hours in a day that we're going to be productive. So we got to find ways that how can we leverage that innovation and that productivity and having people laser focused in the moment during certain periods of the day. Because maybe they have children. They have to take children to school when that happens again in September. If that does happen, we'll see what happens here. But again, that we have to provide that flexibility so that we can maximize people's strengths and so they can be more innovative. Again, we got to encourage diversity because diversity is what makes the world go round. And this is a way that obviously, different people are going to have different perspectives on things. And while sometimes, that could lead to conflict, it could also lead to even bigger and better things. So it's, the benefits of being diverse outweigh the cons. So if we're able to, again, work in an interdependent way, which we'll learn about here later, diversity will play an important role in that. And again, we talked about strengths. Again, putting people to the best of your ability, doing the homework up front, to put people into situations that leverage their strengths and weaknesses. I always like to use football as an example because I'm a big football fan and I coach football. You look at teams like the New England Patriots. Why are they always in the postseason? They have average players. Tom Brady, before he went to Tampa Bay, he was a 6th-round pick. He was the 199th pick in the 2000 draft. He wasn't drafted based on talent alone. What it was is they were put into a system that was able to leverage people's strengths in certain situations in that system where they could be effective, where they can innovate on the spot to score touchdowns, cause turnovers, and win games to go to the postseason. Thus why that team has 6 Super Bowls. So what I'm saying here is it's the same thing in a company. We have to be able to do that work up front. It's not what's just on the resume. It's again, the character. It's the motivation. It's the discipline. Things that we're not going to be perfect on, but we got to look beyond just, something on a CV, that it's got to be people that you're going to create an environment to keep those people around that are going to play a critical role in that innovation to take your company to new levels, playing to their strengths and offsetting their weaknesses. And resources play a part in that to offset those weaknesses.
I have a question or a bit of a comment for you. Sure. When I'm thinking of these, 5 effective ways to foster innovation, and many of them remind me of, the story of Kodak and how they failed to innovate. And correct me if my recollection of this is inaccurate, but in my mind, what I remember of this story is that they were at one point the most successful camera company in the world, bar none, right? And they actually they were the first innovators of the digital camera. But when the team who created it went to management, they were so afraid to introduce the technology for fear it would mess up their film business that they didn't bring it forth and somebody else did. And that's the end of the story,
End of the story. And there was a company that basically owned Rochester, New York, and they were gone.
They have innovated in various ways since then, but nothing like before. And every single one of these 5 tips you're talking about would have been required for that organization to take advantage of this opportunity, to put the resources required in order to investigate how do we keep our current business while this one takes off? How do we make another road for ourselves? How do we be flexible enough about our model, about our thinking, about our marketing to seize this opportunity? The vision wasn't there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And fear is just detrimental to growth. And, again, whole part of, building a core foundation or a foundation on core values and encouraging, and we're going to get into that, encouraging, to make mistakes, to learn from our failures, that this is how we learn to innovate and really grow. And that's what happens. Sometimes you got to make mistakes to get ahead. And when you are playing it safe and not taking certain calculated risks, like, and he said that what you gave with the example of Kodak, this is what could happen. This is what is going to happen, unfortunately, to other companies in this fast-paced environment that we live in now with technology. But it's always going to come back to people. So this is why this is so important that we look at this and how we can merge this with AI and other technology to come out ahead. All right, so here's some ideas to foster innovation. So, the keys are that we want to have everyone, be part of the solution. Again, when people feel that they're part of something bigger, they want to be more involved. This isn't like isolated just to certain people. Again, it's making sure that we're leveraging those strengths and offsetting those weaknesses, putting people, to the best of our ability into groups where they can thrive rather than, butt heads. And again, this doesn't mean that they have to be, in the same workspace, internally in the company. These are people that can be remote. There are ways to do this. Again, it comes down to communication, that we are communicating clearly and specifically, not by assumption and speculation. So that's why it's important that when we're communicating to do a little bit more on the front end to ensure that on the back end that something doesn't get done or gets accomplished because of assumption and speculation. This is why daily or weekly huddles to think and create are very important. They don't have to be that long. These could be things that it could be 5, 10, 15 minutes, half an hour at most. That really, and again, you can do this on Zoom. This is what works great with remote workers. So, these are things that you can do so that you can communicate very clearly, listening to understand versus respond and relating, where now we can eliminate those assumptions and speculations where things fall through the cracks. Now, another thing is an environment or a culture that encourages risk-taking. Again, we're not just throwing, we're going to just take every risk, but that we take calculated risks. If we play it safe, we're going to be out of business. We have to be able to take risks, because with every time that we take a calculated risk, we're setting ourselves up for even bigger and better things in our businesses, as well as adding more value to our industries and clients that we serve. Recognition is so important because, again, this isn't just about that, somebody gets a raise. That's great. People like that. Don't get me wrong. But it can be simple acknowledgement of thank you and simple praise where credit is due. People love to hear that. It just does something at the subconscious level that, allows people to motivate from within to continue to do that. So again, it's not just giving credit just to give credit, but again, doing it, where it is due, and not just doing it in front of other people. It's better when you're doing it one-on-one with people, because you don't want to isolate other people that feel like, well, I guess I wasn't good enough. So that, it's always best that when you're doing that you're doing it in a one-on-one situation with that person, or if it's a group of people together that deserve that recognition. Again, rewarding cutting edge ideas. People might, get it, maybe get a piece of a percentage of the idea. I mean, these are people, if they came up with one idea, they're going to come up with another. These are people that you want to have, stick around. So these are the things that will help people to increase that retention that will allow that innovation to continue. Having fun activities and encouraging team ideas, things off-site, getting together for fun activities once a quarter or at the very least twice a year. These are great ways to build interdependency and engagement with people where it's not all about work. It's just about people coming together and getting to know each other. And then valuing that creativity in all forms. And again, we have to ask. If we don't ask, we don't receive. So if we, it's always to be, asking. And and making sure that when you are asking, that you've already communicated in a certain way where that person now is in position where they can address what you are asking. And again, creating some flexibility with cross-functional teams, because there are going to be cases people might go on maternity leave, people might be sick, whatever the case may be, but someone can step in and do that role, even though it's not really their core role, and still get it done before going back to their main role. So it's, again, ongoing training, but again, leveraging those strengths more than, weaknesses. Somebody could get better at something they're not good at, but that doesn't mean they're still ever going to be great at it. So capitalize on people's strengths. Let them get better at that. They're going to add more value, which leads to more innovation. So reinforce those contributions. Again, this is where, we want to be, again, identifying specific behaviors that align with those values. We want to make sure that if people are coming from integrity and honesty, do their behaviors reflect that? That we reinforce that a lot, not only in how we communicate, but also that it could be on our town hall meetings that we have, in our huddles, in our written correspondence, as well as emails. Formalizing a program that outlines goals and behaviors, that we're being very specific and clear and making sure everyone understands their roles and their responsibilities and that they're accountable. So it's very important that we reinforce that, not just once, but just making sure that people really clearly understand their roles as well as others that they play with. Provide tools for managers and employees to recognize and reward those behaviors. Again, if we're going to reinforce certain behaviors that serve, new behaviors take at least 6 months to a year before they're embedded at the subconscious mindset. So again, we have to be able to have certain things that reinforce that so people continue to act on those behaviors that are healthy to the organization and others to foster that innovation. And again, rewarding individuals and teams where due, and making sure that we're communicating and sharing these success stories often with our teams. So what is the new workplace going to look like? Again, there's going to be a lot of telework, okay? So there's going to be a lot of people working remotely more than ever. So again, it's taking a lot of the concepts that we are talking about and making sure that with those resources, which we're going to talk about here right now, that we are communicating them clearly, and we're providing that flexibility for people to leverage their strengths to the best of their abilities to do their roles, and making sure they're coming together with others. We need to provide resources for people that are working from home. So whether if it's going to be a printer, it's going to be a laptop, certain things that they're going to need. Virtual communication platforms. I mean, these could be things like what we're on here now, Zoom. Everybody should have Zoom. There could be Slack. Slack is a workplace communication platform. It's an app, a great place where you can communicate with multiple people, one person, or certain groups. It doesn't have to be Slack, but it's a great platform so that you can now categorize your conversations and your tasks with certain people to make sure you're up to speed. And you can do this all remotely. There's other ones like Gel. There's other ones like Microsoft Teams, Twist. Twist is a brand new virtual platform, and really nice platform. Matter of fact, they're just developing even more, and it's. I think the search capability on that one is unbelievable. So again, these are just some ideas of some virtual communication platforms. Other apps could be like Flock. That could be River. It can be Mattermost. These are just some other examples of different apps that you can take advantage of. And of course, artificial intelligence. I mean, AI is here. It's here to stay. It is not going to replace everything like people thought, but it's going to play an instrumental role in doing those mundane tasks that will take us away from the things that really, I mean, they're important, but allow us to really focus on what really matters, the things that we do best as people, focusing on our strengths. So what is interdependency in the workplace? Again, it's where we can come together with similar values and we understand our responsibilities, our roles, and we can do this in a way that empowers others through example to do the same. So again, it's not yet you're dependent upon someone, leading from expectation, that we are focused on the process, that when we focus on the process in the moment with the roles that we are responsible for and empower others to do the same, we can then come together and do bigger and better things. The process will lead us to the results we seek. Expectations and outcomes, if we're tied to that in itself, will just lead to disappointment. It leads to more codependent behavior. So the key is to shift your thinking from a fixed to a growth mindset to focusing on the process. What are the priorities that matter in that moment? Not worrying about, trusting that all the different intelligence and the other puzzle pieces will come together when they do to complete the task and to achieve those results. And again, these are some of the examples of interdependence in the workplace: leading by example, using the effective communication and active listening that we talked about earlier, looking at that we focus on character, then skills. See, skills and talent are great, but if the character's not there, it's not going to last. Innovation is going to thrive on people that have that character and the will to come together interdependently to do bigger and better things. And of course, skills and talent are important. Again, leveraging each other's strengths, learning to communicate and relate to others through empathy and kindness versus please and enabling. See, please and enabling is codependent. Empathy and kindness is interdependent. There's a fine line. And again, there's a boundary. So when empathy and kindness empowers through example, please and enabling does for someone, but it doesn't, make them come out of their comfort zones to do things that are innovative. And then it just leads to more disappointment and resentment and conflict. And again, respecting diversity, because it's that diversity with different generation types, people from different ethnic backgrounds, different skill sets that are coming together, that if we can create an environment, we can do bigger and better things from that. Again, whether if you're working remote or working in the company itself. And again, that we sustain this innovation by leading by example. So leading by example, again, is what we, again, a trusted advisor. We're not managing people. We are leading by example. We're managing processes and resources and allowing the people to, learn how to be more responsible for themselves, and then sharing that interdependently coming together. And again, these are some ideas, again, operating from a growth mindset. I'm kind of going through this a little quick because I know we got so much time, and we got one slide left. That again, that you're committed to the process like we talked about for desired results, not the results itself or the outcome. And again, the ability to embrace that diversity and respect each other. And again, being accountable and, always looking for the solution rather than manage the problem, and seeking as an organization to collaborate versus compete. Competing, it has its advantages, but yet collaboration in the long run is a more sustainable model to grow with innovation. And with that being said, if you have any questions.
Yeah, so I have quite a few, and folks, if you're listening, feel free to type in your questions in the chat box. I'll be monitoring that. So a couple of things. One, I'm curious about, okay, which question do I ask first? I'm going to ask the value question first. So
Sure.
I'm curious about when an organization's behaviors, the values that they represent, not necessarily the values on their plaque, interfere with innovation. We all know organizations that will say, we value transparency, and then nobody shares anything, right?
No.
We value collaboration, but marketing and research can't seem to, collaborate. So how does an organization deal with that if their cultural values are different than innovation?
Absolutely. And this is quite common, Anissa, in many organizations, whether if it's large or small, very common. And it starts with awareness. So meaning that, organizations have to set up trainings so that these trainings now create the awareness. The next step now is, do they want to go a step further and start implementing accountability programs for these things to stick? Because these things don't change overnight. It's not like you go to a workshop for 3 hours or 2 days and everything is perfect. No, it starts with the awareness, but then it's got to be over time so that people begin to shift. See, you can't change someone. No one can change another human being. Only another human being can change themselves. And how people change is on their time, but a lot of times they can change when they are observing others that are doing things differently in a healthy way that gets them to kind of look at themselves and what they can do better. So again, not just talking about it, but actually doing it, showing action. So this has got to be something consistent that starts with awareness, with just some, maybe it's some lunch and learn, some awareness workshops for 3 hours, and just planting that seed and then just cultivating that over time for these people to make shifts. This does not happen overnight. But if companies are looking for a long-term solution to come out ahead, to be on the top of innovation, to retain key employees, these are the things they have to invest in order to do that. If they're looking for a stopgap, a Band-Aid, something that, you can manage that, but you're not going to have that, that sustainability long-term. You're just going to keep managing the problem and just going through the motions. So that would be my suggestion there. Shifting behavior takes some time. And it's on an individual level. You can't just do this with, I'm going to change the marketing department in 2 days. It doesn't work that way.
So it really is understanding that they're naming the problem, because we can't change something that we can't name. You can't see it, you can't revise it, and implementing a change management process, including the new principles, the new behaviors, and then supporting people along the change.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's very good. So along those same lines, there was something that you wrote in the last one. Will you go back to the one about the last slide before the questions, leading by example? That's the one.
Okay.
Not that one, but the one after that one.
Oh, this one?
That one. That's it. The piece around operating from a growth mindset, that too, right now we are in crisis mode. Companies that were set to have record years, economy is booming, best time ever in their business. They've just acquired a new unit and brought on 1,000 employees. You name it. These are the kinds of things that we've been seeing in our clients over the last 16, 18 months, whatever it is, are no longer in that growth mindset. Now they're in, holy cow, not only am I going to have to lay off half my workforce, I'm going to have to take a cut in pay, and maybe my job's at stake. So how do you shift in this crisis time to get to that growth mindset? Because it's really hard to get it right now.
Yeah. A growth mindset is something that, I've worked with an organization out in Silicon Valley on this, and this was with a group of engineers, which was challenging. And a growth mindset, it means that, it's not only learning to be present, but it's recognizing that if we continue to do what we're doing, expecting different results, when it's not going to happen. So you got to be able to end up doing certain things that you haven't done before, incorporating perhaps new, concepts, new habits, new disciplines, whether if this is on an individual level or in the organization itself. And that these are the things that, and even if we make mistakes, that we learn from that and we use that as in a way to learn so that we can then, move ahead. So a growth mindset is it's a shift in the way you think. Instead of looking at the problem as the problem, you look at the challenge as an opportunity to learn and grow to where you are and where you want to be. So it's a change in your attitude. It's a change in your behavior. It's a change in how you communicate. with others. Again, that listening, that relating and listening to understand versus respond. It's learning to suspend judgment. Again, it's not who's right and who's wrong. And that, now I know that sounds easy. Oop, did I lose that? What happened there?
I'm still with you. I can see your screen.
Okay. You still, it knocked me out there for a minute. Now I've seen my email. But with that being said,
I'm not seeing your email. So
okay, yeah, that's right. I just want to make sure, which is fine. I have nothing to like, but in with that, this is a process. So so this is the things that again take some time to start working. So this might start with working with one department and then moving to another one and another one, depending upon the size of the organization. Now, if it's a large company, this could take some time. Again, you're dealing with a lot of different generation types, different people from different backgrounds, and they're going to see things their way. So this is not necessarily easy, but it can be done if people at some level can see this long term. And it doesn't mean everyone's going to see it, but yeah, if you can see a lot of more people that get it over the long term, it's going to definitely help change how people work, how they communicate, how they get things done, how they become more efficient, and of course, how they innovate moving forward.
So my takeaway from that is very helpful. And I'm actually taking away, two pillars here. One is the truth is that many of the concepts around creating an innovative culture require culture work. They require change work. They require the collaboration that you talked about, and that's a long game. The other piece, though, is the piece around right now. Companies don't have the long game in front of them. They've got 4 weeks, if that, to pivot and to create an innovation and to find a way to sustain in the middle of what appears unsustainable. If the widgets they were used to manufacturing are no longer being bought today and in the near future, they got to find another widget and fast, or another service, another prospect. How would you, if in your training experience and what you bring to corporations, if an organization said, look, we got 4 weeks to make a shift, what is the process that they need to go through to make that innovation happen?
That's going to be, just everything we talked about, that would be difficult to do in 4 weeks. But with that being said, that you're just going to have to do with what you can. So, again, in this case, you're going to have to do something that could just be a temporary thing, for the time being. If it, again, so whatever it's going to take to, get another widget or whatever the case may be, you're just going to have to do what you have to do. But yet you want to at least at some level start, we're going to start with our core values, because we're going to have to know that we're going to have to start somewhere. We can't put the cart before the horse. Okay. So I would say in that situation, they're going to have to do what they have to do with what they have in order to, do what they have to do in that short period of time. And then as they, they take care of that short term might address that, but that's not going to be the long-term answer there.
Yeah.
That they're going to have to start now long-term, kind of doing the things that we talked about here, if they're going to establish a company and build a culture where they're going to build a winning team. Very similar to what I used with the example with the New England Patriots, why they can bring in people and plug them in, and it works because they built a culture in a system where people can thrive. And it doesn't matter how skilled they are. It really comes down to their character, and it comes down to their work ethic and how they think. So these are all things that companies got to start considering long term. And then again, just as I mentioned, short term, doing what they have to do in that situation just to address that need.
And something that you said earlier about the, developing cross-functional teams and rewarding risk taking, that is something that even if an organization doesn't have a practice of that, and tell me if I'm wrong, there's nothing saying you can't start it today. You got 4 weeks, bring your folks in. Folks, here's our situation. It is change or die. So
I would have thought right now would have been the perfect time when people are at home, that you could be using that time to start planting this seed, and start to kind of and say that this is going to take all of us to do this. This isn't just C-suite, and certain business leaders, and then, we'll tell everybody when everything is up and running. No, this has got to include people from day one at the ground floor. You got to have somebody that buys in, understanding other people's values and principles, to the best of your ability. You do that through an assessment, a survey. There are many out there. And with that being said, I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but yet if we can do a better job of putting people together, whether if they're, physically together or remote, and they're communicating effectively, then, we put ourselves in a position now to be more efficient and more innovative long-term. And that you encourage people to take ownership of their development. Maybe again, they could, the company could be hosting awareness sessions at lunchtime, or maybe they do Zoom sessions where people can go in and just, get on their computer at lunch and tune into a session like this.
Yep.
Doing these things, and those small investments long-term will pay dividends long-term. So this is why we can't just think, okay, I got to get this done and make a quick buck in 1 month, or, yes, I understand you have shareholders, but nonetheless, if you got to look at the bigger picture, because again, you don't want to be like some other companies that were once these behemoths, and then all of a sudden they were gone. And in today's decade, this decade going forward, that's going to be a little more common than before, because that's what's going to happen. And this is why we have to be, proactive and building that foundation first.
Yeah. The proactive piece and looking ahead, seeing what's around the corner, pretty important. What you just said reminded me of the Nokia story, another leader in their field, and they missed the smartphone opportunity. They if I recall it correctly, undervalued software, focused on hardware, and they became, instead of the leader in cell phones, they missed that opportunity pretty significantly.
Exactly. Yep. It's the reality. It could happen so quick. Nowadays it's even quicker than it's ever been before. It's by the time you even realize it could be too late.
Well, this has been, really mind expanding, and I think that we've taken a lot away. Will you share with us, Christopher? I know you prepared something special for our guests, and I also want to make sure folks know why to get a hold of you. Why would someone reach out to you, and how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best place to reach me is, you can reach to me on LinkedIn, but of course my email at chris@christophersalem.com. And if, I'd be happy to offer a 1-hour consultation, just an assessment of your business unit, your company. It could be an individual. And again, that does not matter. And, to kind of get a pulse of where you are. And I'd be happy to provide some direction, some, insight. And again, there's no obligation whatsoever. It's more or less about me getting to know you and understanding you better. And if I could be a resource for you, or something I could help, I'd be happy to do that. So again, reach out there, and I'd be happy to offer a 1-hour consultation, that's complimentary to you.
Perfect. I did miss a real quick question that I want to get out. So what other, except for your own experience, where do you draw your knowledge from? Are there books, website, blogs? What could you recommend in this topic area?
It's just that I spent a number of years working not only in corporate, but working outside of it. So I got to understand people, how they worked internally, how they worked from the outside, how they worked with alliance partners, how they worked with customers. And I was fascinated by, and it was something that I loved doing and getting to know people. So it's through 25 years of experience. And then, of course, I'm a certified mindset facilitator. And, I'm also an adjunct instructor at a couple different colleges. They do that part-time here on the side. And, in teaching this philosophy and based upon experience. So everything from me is through experience. And I'm passionate about it. And it's something that I'm all about empowering others to change, but they have to do it themselves, organizations, people, whatever. And I want to be that person that empowers by example, leads by example from those core values, help others do the same.
Love it. I love it. Kay Turner says, this is a great conversation, Chris and Anissa. Yes, well said, Christopher. It comes down to their character, their work ethic, and how they think. So thank you. Thank you, guys. This has been very informative, Christopher.
Thank you.
I want everyone to stay safe and healthy and reach out if we may be of service. Thank you, sir. Stay safe
Thank
and
you so
healthy.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.